Hey, this is Andrew Brown from the AWS Cloud Project Bootcamp bringing you another video, and this time we're going to look at hooking up more of the application after we've done CloudFormation. So the other day we made sure that our static website hosting was working. We didn't do the GitHub Actions all the way there, but you can see here if we right-click, we are going to run into some issues. So we go over here and give this a nice refresh. It fails the pre-flight check. So it's failing cores, but the other thing is that even if it didn't fail cores, the problem here is that there is no data loaded. So if we go to our API here, if we just copy this over here, and let's say we said API, our health check will pass. So we can do API health check. I know that's a bit redundant, but that is successful. But if we try to do anything else like our activities, home, you'll see it's undefined because the tables are not there. Now, it'd be nice if this wasn't displaying this. This doesn't look like it's in debug mode. That's interesting. Or sorry, it looks like it is in debug mode because in production, we should never see this information. I'm actually quite surprised that it is showing up here. So maybe we built it wrong. I don't understand what's going on here. But anyway, the point is that those tables are not there. So one thing I want to do is fix this here because it should not be showing that. And so maybe what happened is that I built the wrong image and I pushed it. But that might be something that is very easy for us to fix. So I'm just thinking about this for a moment because we've been doing stuff with CloudFormation and I want to continuing to use CloudFormation. So let's open up our CloudFormation here and go into our service, and we'll go into our template here. And if we scroll on down, the thing is that it uses an ECR image right there. Okay, and so that makes sense, but I guess the only thing we have to do is build a new image and push it. So let's go ahead and do that. So what I'm gonna do is go over to our bin directory because it's been a while for me, maybe not for you, but for me it has been, and we're gonna go over to our build. And what I wanna do is make sure that is using the prod, so it's using the prod there. We hard-coded it for that, and we're gonna go bin backend build. We gotta go back up a directory. So bin, I'm gonna make this a little bit larger because it is a little bit hard for me to even read. Bin backend build, and so that should go build a new production image. And while that's going, I'm gonna go check my backend and make sure that that debug mode is turned off because we might have been fiddling with it when we were testing stuff. So I'll go down here below. If we expand it, no debugger, no reload. Yeah, so it shouldn't be showing this here at all, right? I should not see this. So just to make sure that it is working correctly, we are just going to go ahead and build this, and then we're going to go ahead and push this. So I'm going to just double check to see what this does. Yep, that is correct. So we'll go ahead and we'll do backend push. And so that is going to push us a new version. Now, what our new version is, I'm not 100% sure. But what we'll do is we'll go over to AWS here. I'm going to make my way over to task definition. We'll go ECS. Because we really should not see that debug mode. That is a serious problem. And the reason why it is that because if people can see what's going on there, they can use that to troubleshoot how your code works and do nasty things. So I'm going to go here to task definitions, and if we go to backend Flask here, we see number 31. This happened when today is the 16th. This says 5/6/2023. So this is not new. So we need to deploy a new version. So here, this pushes the image. So we need to run register. So go ahead and we'll register that. And so now we have a new version registered. We'll go back over here and double check. Okay, and we'll go see if there's a revision 32. There is. And so now we need our service to be using that new revision. So what I'm going to do is make my way over to Elastic Container Service. I'm going to go into the cluster here, and I'm going to just checkbox this here. We're going to say update. And of course, we could also use our script, but it's up to you what you're comfortable with. we did make those scripts to make it a little bit easier. I'm going to go ahead and hit update. And so I want that one to roll out. And so when this is using revision 32, I'll see you back here when that is the case. And we'll double check and make sure that this is working correctly, okay? See you in a bit. All right, so I was waiting here and it just kept saying in progress, but I noticed here when I went to events or deployment events, it says service failed to launch a task. ECS was unable to assume the role that was provided for this task. Please verify that the role is being passed that has the proper trust relationships. So something there is, it doesn't like it, which makes no sense because we provisioned this with CloudFormation. So I'm not sure how it could not have the correct configuration. So that's something I'm not exactly sure about. Now we did attempt to register our task definition, and maybe that's where we ran into an issue because I think that we define our task definition here somewhere. So if I go to our, where is it, AWS directory, and we go into CFN, and we go into our service, do we define the task definition? We do here. So it's possible that when we ran the task definition, the register command, it's actually now attaching the older roles that probably aren't even there. And that's what our problem is. So let's go verify if that's the case. I wasn't trying to jank it, but hey, it's a good example where you got to stick with your CloudFormation or not. So we'll go over to the task definition and we'll go into backend Flask and we'll go to this version here. And I want to go take a look at the JSON. It's the fastest way to look at it. And so I'm just scrolling through here and taking a look. We still have those wildcards on, which is really bad. Maybe you don't have it, but I sure do, and that's not good. And yeah, so these are here. But I would think that these are probably the same name as before. Let's go take a look at our service here. I'm going to scroll on down. So I wonder if we create these in line. We do. CRUD service execution role. CRUD service execution role. So you think that those would be fine. Now, I don't know if that other one is still there, CRUD task role. So we'll go down here. This one's called CRUD service task role. So that one clearly is the wrong one. But you can see how the names are very similar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if we can update this. I guess the question is, did we even really need to change the task definition? Because it's always going to use the latest, so we probably actually didn't have to push it because we didn't actually change anything. But what I'm going to do, just so this takes effect, I'm just going to change this to be timeout 6. I'm just doing something superficial so that it will trigger a new deploy, because if there's nothing to change, it won't do anything. And I don't know if it would actually detect drift. Actually, what we'll do is we'll go back over here. Because we did cause drift because we pushed it outside the scope of CloudFormation. So let's go take a look there and see if it can detect it. Drift detection just tells you something has changed, and something has changed. When we, if we do the Terraform bootcamp, you'll definitely know what that is. But over here, what I'm looking for is the service. So we're looking for backend Flask right here. And I want to see if it can figure out if there's been any drift. Normally, I think before you had to turn it on before. So I don't think it was just a matter of we would see it. You'd have to go to detect drift. Drift detection initiated. I'm not sure if it costs anything. I don't think it does. Drift or CloudFormation costs. Let's go take a look over here. I'm looking for drift. I think drift is free. I never remember ever having to pay for it. And so here it says not checked. Drift detection enables you to detect whether a stack actual configuration is differed. And notice here it says modified and modified. So it knows that something has changed. Okay. But the question is how do we fix that? So let's just leave it as 5. And what I'm going to do is going to see if I can attempt to deploy this again. And we'll see if it puts it back into its original configuration. So we have bin. What is this for? We call this one service. So this is bin cfn service. It's really just the back end, but that's what we called it. And we'll go ahead and give this a go. See if it takes it. Okay. And here it says no changes to deploy, but clearly there are changes to deploy. So that's something I'm not sure. So how to remediate drift cloud formation, because clearly there's something been changed. Create a stack, update your stack, add stack, override parameters, resolve drift with an import operation. There may be cases where resources have drifted from intended configuration and you want to accept the new changes as the intended configuration, but we don't. That's not what we want to do. Revert. Okay, let me just read a little bit here. I just want to figure out what the way we can do. I mean, we could just change one little value to do it, but if there's a way where there's some kind of action within AWS, I'd like to go do that, okay? All right, so it doesn't seem like there is a button that says go back to the original state. So they're just saying, like, I read a lot on this, but it was saying that what you could do is you could go fix the mistake. Now, this is not an easy mistake to fix. And so I think what we'll really have to do here is we'll just have to change the value what I'm doing here. Now in Terraform, when you deploy, it'll actually always put it back to how you want it to be. So it's interesting CloudFormation doesn't do that. But again, we can work around that pretty easily by just changing a single value, or at least that's what I think in theory. So we are going to go find out that next here. So that is creating the change set. I'm going to make my way back over to CloudFormation. We're going to go to change sets here. And yeah, that one failed because there was nothing to change. And so I believe this is the new one. So I can't really tell what I'm looking at here. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete both of these just in case there is something there that I'm not sure about. We'll go ahead and try this again. Okay, wait till it creates it. Doesn't take that long. There we go. And we'll go ahead and execute that change set. And so I'm hoping it will do what I want. So roll back all stacks. So roll back the stack to the last known stable state. Preserve the state successfully provisioned. So we'll do the top one here. That sounds good to me. Let's close some of these off. Give this a nice refresh. And yeah, so we'll see how that goes there. Okay, so I want to go back and take a look at my resources. Does this already finish? No, it hasn't. But we'll wait until it's done, or maybe it'll hang. And we'll have to check, okay? Be back here in a bit. All right, so it's been hanging here too long. Maybe the previous one is kind of stuck in a weird state. What I'm going to do is make our way back over to ECS and see what's going on here, because clearly something is up. And so we'll go over to our cluster here. We're going to take a look at our backend Flask here, and we can see there has been 4 failed. So there's clearly some kind of issue going on here. Not 100% sure what, but yeah, I'm not sure what's going on here. But you know what we can do is we can tear down the entire service. Now, I'm just thinking about this for a moment because we do have that CI/CD pipeline, and I wonder if we can tear that down, but also have the service in place. So that's something we're going to have to find out. So what I'm going to do is go over to our backend here. I'm just going to see if I can tear down the stack. So go here and we'll just do cancel stack update. Hopefully I'm not going to regret that. And now we're going to do a rollback here. So we'll wait till this finishes. I'll be back here in a bit, but for whatever reason, it's in a weird state. And so working with CloudFormation is obviously different working with the CLI. So we'll see what we can do here, okay? All right, so wait a little while here. It still says update a rollback in progress. I'm going to see if I can kind of fix it along because these services are a bit interesting on how they move back and forth here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our backend Flask service here. I'm going to checkbox that. I'm going to hit update, and I'm going to change the desired count back down to 0. We're going to force a new deployment here. Not that there's anything new to deploy. And so hopefully what that will do is that will get us with 0 tasks running. And then that way it will be able to complete this here, okay? So I'll wait a little bit here, and I'll come back and we'll see what happens, okay? All right, so that fixed that issue there. So, just understand that when you're working with Fargate and if you have services running, they might just keep running, and so you have to take them down in order to roll back that state. So we're out of that now, but the thing is that we do want to fix that drift. So if we go back over to wherever that drift was, view drift results, nothing there, but we'll detect drift again. We might see some difference. So we see those are modified. And again, I want to get those back into the original state. Let's see if we can tear this down and get away with it. It really depends if there are other stacks that rely on it. I cannot remember if our other stack relies on it. So if we go over into our stack details, up to our stacks, I want to check out the CI/CD one. So this one here, we'll bake an image and then it will do a deploy. We never actually trigger this new one here, but I just want to check in what parameters it takes. And so in here, it's just expecting that the stack service name is that. It's not cross-referencing any values, or at least I hope it's not, because if it is, then we can't tear that down independently from it. We'll go back over here. We'll give this a refresh. And is that tearing down or what's going on here? So it says export CRUDR backend service name cannot be deleted as it is used by CRUDR CI/CD. So that means that we can't just tear down the service when we want to. It's reliant on that CI/CD one. And that to me is a little bit frustrating because right now we have it in a state that we don't like and we can't just tear it down and put it back up. So maybe what we should be doing is rethinking our CI/CD and changing it so that it's not tightly coupled. So let's go into this template and take a look at where that's being used. So in here we have the service stack. Okay, and here it's importing the service name. And so the question is, what is the service name? If we go over to our outputs, the value is back in Flask. So maybe we shouldn't be using a cross-reference stack here. And that's, I think we're going to change here. So I'm going to just comment this out. And we're going to say backend Flask here. We decided not to use a cross stack so we can tear down a service independently. But we do have to think about like how this affects stuff. So over here, I guess the question is like, if we did do that, service separate from it, can't spell independently, so I'm just going to do that. But the question is like, if we were to change our deploy mechanism, we were to tear this down, would this actually work? Because this controller is pointing to a specific service. So, would it still work? I think it might, but I guess we'll have to find out in testing. So I'm going to just comment that out. And what we're going to do is before we hard code that value, to parameterize that value, I'm going to leave it hard coded for testing purposes. I'm going to go here and do bin cfn CI/CD. And this is what I mean, where you have to use your CloudFormation. You can't just get everything running and hope that it works. You have to battle test it by changing things and doing things. But anyway, we're going to go back over to our stack here. I'm going to go into here into the CI/CD one. Actually, before we do, let's just make sure we're not using that anywhere else. So I'm just going to double check that service name or service stack. And that's the only place it is referenced. Okay. So we will now go into CI/CD. We'll look at our change set and we will execute that change set. So yeah, we're getting some serious CloudFormation knowledge here. And we'll see when that is done. So I'll be back here when it's done. Oh, it's done already. Great. So now what we can do is go back to our stacks and let's see if we can tear down this one. Now, I don't know, again, if that CI/CD will be upset because there is a service that doesn't exist there, but we can always just check code pipeline and see what happens. So yeah, if this deletes, I'll come back here and we'll talk, okay? All right, so that was able to tear down with no issue there. So what I'm going to do is just take a look at the CI/CD. I'm just kind of curious what's going to happen there. Sorry, code pipeline. We'll say GitHub Actions is easier. I don't know. A code pipeline is easier, but I guess like GitHub Actions, you can bring in a lot of stuff there. So I guess it has a little bit more flexibility, but I don't know. It's not really for me per se, but I want to go into our new one. This would be our new one. That is our old one here. Should probably delete that old one at some point. Yeah, that's 4 days ago. We don't care whether that passes or not because we didn't really do a serious deploy yet. I'm gonna go to edit stage here. I want to see what the options are. And yeah, it just takes a name here. Of course, if we were to clear that out and try to find one, we might run into issues, but it seems like it's just a string value. So it looks like we're going to be okay having those decoupled. So that is good. What I want to do is go back over here and we're going to go ahead and put back up our service. So we'll go and do that. And so this should get us back into a working state unless there is something else that we mucked up. But I don't think so. I think it's going to work this time around. Okay, so we'll go back over here. We'll hit that execute change set. Okay, and we'll give that a go. I'll be back here when this is working or if we need to debug it. All right, see you soon. All right, it's been a while and it should be already created by now. So I'm going to go over here and take a look, unless I am just a little bit impatient here. Going to go in here and see if there's been any failures. 0 completed so far, so that looks okay. No failures. This is in progress, but let's go take a look at those logs. Make sure we're not hitting that problem we had before. So yeah, maybe it just takes a little bit of time and I'm impatient here. So yeah, we'll open up the logs here. Nothing as of yet. So I'll wait a little bit more, okay? This is still going, says create in progress. What a crazy detour with all this CloudFormation stuff. I'm gonna go check the logs. I'm gonna check deployment and tasks, health issues. So we're now getting failures. Why? It's CloudFormation, it should just work, but let's go take a look and see what it's complaining about. It's not saying why. So what we'll do is we'll go to configuration and tasks. We'll go take a look at one that has failed to launch. I don't know why that these things can't just work. Essential container is task exited. That's totally fine. Logs, no logs. Okay. Essential container is task exited. What the heck is going on? A task to stop when an essential container exiting is the cause of the stop container. So an essential one would probably be, I don't know, the main one would probably be the essential one. Let's see if we can find essential even in here. Why am I having so much trouble here today? Or this isn't telling me anything. Exit code 0, exit code 1. Stopped. So the exit code matters because it determines good or bad. So exit codes, I never remember which is which. One is 1 versus 0. Status is a possible scenario, generally speaking. It tells you the latest command was successful. 0. So 1 is bad. Exit code 0 versus 1. So 1 is bad, 0 is good. Okay. Even though that other one said the opposite. So coming back here, well, what was it again? I already forgot. Exit code 0 versus 1. 0 is good, 1 is bad. So 1 is bad. And if we go back here, backend Flask is having an issue. Why? Why are we having a problem? I don't know. I would like to know why. It says unknown, so it couldn't even start up for some weird reason. And it's marked as essential, so that makes sense. Yeah, Don't know why. This doesn't want to work. Okay, let me figure this out, all right? I'll be back. All right, doing some debugging. Online, they're saying, hey, there should be things in your logs. Well, guess what? There's nothing in my logs to debug this. So this is kind of odd, I would say, that this is happening. How am I supposed to debug this? Well, I guess I'll just have to launch the container again here locally, because that's the only way I'm going to be able to test this. So what I'm going to do is go down to Docker Compose. And we will switch this over to the prod one. So if we go here, there should be one for prod somewhere here. Back in Flask. Dot. Should really specify the type of file. So we'll say Docker Compose, specify Docker file. And we'll take a look here. What version are we using? 2 or 3 of Docker Compose? 3. So yeah, we want this here. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to go up to back in Flask, and we'll do this. We'll say dockerfile.prod, because we're going to have to test this one locally, because if it's not working, there must be some reason why. It's very important that you are always able to replicate this locally, because it's just going to happen. But yeah, I guess things aren't going to be easy for me for whatever reason, but we'll go in here, and this one's called .prod. So I'm going to go down below here and do a Docker Compose up. Haven't had to do that in a while, but hopefully that will work. It says additional property Docker file is not allowed. Why not? Why is it not allowed there? The documentation shows it. Did I type it wrong? You know, some days things just don't go your way. So going back over here to this one. Oh, it's within build. Okay, so it's because I'm not carefully reading. So we'll do this, and then I guess it's context. Okay, and so that should be the improvement over there. While I'm here, I might as well do that for this one as well. Just because then we can switch out front end whenever we need to. So I'm gonna go here. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter, because that production one will probably never really be running again. It was just more so locally, so we'll actually stick to that, and that's fine. So I'll go back here. We'll do a Docker Compose up. And hopefully this will work without issue this time around. Because the question is, if the backend Flask exits, then we'll know, right? And we can just check the logs here, whereas the other one, we're not able to check the logs for whatever silly reason. So I'll be back here when these images are pulled, and we'll see what the result of doing Docker Compose up is, okay? All right, so we did Docker Compose up. We haven't done anything with the databases yet, and so here, the backend is failing. That is great, because we want to see what the problem is. So I'll go here and view the logs. Hopefully it's something like with an error. Ah, okay, so we have a problem. It says Flask object no attribute before first request. Did you mean got first request? This has to do with versioning, and so I could have swore that we had to change it because there was a version difference. But let's go over here, and we're going to go up to, again, I'm surprised this didn't log, but maybe the logging just could never kick in. But let's go into our app.py, and I could have swore that we swapped this out because we're using a newer version of Flask. So if we go down here, there's this before first request. Before first request. And I could have swore that, yeah, we changed this. So the question is, what should it be changed to? Maybe we can go ahead and check what version of Flask that we are using. So here it's not specifying any specific version, but how would we know what it is installing? And so I think this is where we kind of have to say it should use a particular version of Flask. I'm going to go over to GitHub. We're going to go over to Flask. And we are going to go into the releases because it was telling us here in the releases what had been changed. So this was 2 weeks ago. Let's go ahead and read about the changes here. And so in version 2.30, it removed the before first request. And so if we go back over to here, it's saying object has no attribute before first request. Did you mean got first request? I could have swore we replaced that. I definitely went about and solved that before. So I'm not sure how we're back to this old code unless I'm just in the wrong branch. But I believe that I'm in week 10 here, so that's a bit confusing to me. But I guess we can go solve it again. So we'll say, you know, what to replace in Flask in 2.3. And so here they say, I don't know the answer you're looking for. In place of decorated, use the app instance like this instead. And so they were doing with app context. I kind of remember doing this. So we'll go back over here and we'll go ahead and paste this in as well. And then we'll go down. Again, don't know how this reverted because I definitely already did this. And we'll indent as such. So what I'll do is I'll now do a Docker compose down. Okay, just put space there. I'll do a Docker compose up, and hopefully that error will be gone. Now, if we get database connection issues, that's okay. I don't think that would cause that to exit like that, but this error, of course, would cause that issue there. I'll see you back here in a moment, okay? All right, so this one's back up. We're going to go take a look here in Docker, and now it's running. So that's probably what our problem was. So we'll go ahead and, I guess, push that now. Our CI/CD pipeline, it's supposed to go ahead and deploy the service, but the thing is we do have to have a service running for it to deploy to, so it's not like I could just push to our new branch and do that. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and do our bin CFN service. Actually, one thing that we could have checked out while we were there, which I didn't, it's still running, or is it gone? Yeah, it's still running. Is what about the darn checks here? Because it's not supposed to be showing the debug mode. So maybe we can solve that here while we're here as well. Okay, and so I'm kind of expecting this to error out or complain or do something. And we can try a health check as well. Okay, so that one's there. Let's try activities. Not allowed. Activities home. And this is having read contention because it's not going anywhere here. But you know what I want to see here is I want to see whether it's going to show that logging or not. But it doesn't seem like it is. But our database shouldn't have anything. So if we go here, I do db connect. Yeah, see, no database exists. So what I'm kind of expecting here is just to throw an internal error. That's perfect. So this is what we were expecting to see. Whatever image we had running before, I have no idea, but we are going to solve it here and now. We're going to do backend, and this will be build. And then once that's built, we're going to go ahead and now do our push. Okay, so that is now pushed. It's interesting that all those other layers are there because we definitely made a change to our code. So I'm just kind of wondering if it did take effect. So I'm going to go over here, and we'll just say, you know, fix prod Docker fix prod version of Flask. Okay, I'm just going to commit that. But yeah, I'm just curious if it actually did push. I mean, it did say it pushed. I just don't know how all those layers could be the exact same. Back in build. Back in Flask, yes. It's going production. I just want to double check that build file. Again, I just don't trust it. No, it's doing prod. Okay, so maybe it did push. We're going to make our way back over to here. I think the stack is still attempting to create in progress. We can make our way over to ECS. And what we want to do here is to see what version we're on. So if we go to our tasks, and we just click into it, maybe into the service, sorry. We're seeing 14 failed, so I'm going to wait till this increments to the next one. So maybe when it gets to 16, if it's 16 failed, then we know that there's something wrong. I'll tear this down, start this up again. I'll be back here in a bit, okay? All right, so after a little wait there, it looks like our service is back up and running. So yeah, I guess that's a way that we can debug if we run into issues. So it wasn't fun to do, but it is great knowledge for us to know how to solve those problems. So what I want to do is go back up to our URL here, where we had crutter. Let's go back to api.crutter. And this is not found. That's totally okay. We're going to do the health check. That is fine. Now let's do that activities home. And we get an internal server error. That is what I wanted. So I think what happened was I had a development one pushed earlier, and then we pushed the production one. I don't know. We had some issues there, but this is what I want. I want internal server error because right now we don't have the databases hooked up again. So, or I should say that we don't have them seeded with information. So we know that it's going to fail because those tables don't exist. What I want to do is go back over to AWS. We're going to make our way over to RDS. And I'm ready to tear down the old one if it has yet to be torn down, or if it's already torn down, that's okay. We'll just get situated here. So coming into our databases here, we only have one, and that is perfect for me. Now, I want to establish a local connection. Remember that we do set our DB connection here, but it needs to be updated. So I'm going to type env grep prod. And in here, this is my old one. You can see this is DB instance. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this really quickly. Again, to remind you to not share your database password with folks here, because that is a bad idea. I think all we have to do is change it like that, because this doesn't change. All the rest doesn't change. It's just the name there. So I'll go ahead and copy this entire line. We'll say copy. I'm going to type in export, and we're going to go ahead and paste that in as such. I'm going to hit up. Actually, I'm going to do this one more time because sometimes it messes up if you don't have double quotations around it. It might work, but I just want to guarantee that it's going to work. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do gpenv. And so what I want to do now is test my connection, because we want to make sure that we can locally connect. DB connect. And we have an error 5432. That's totally okay, because we need to make sure we open up that port. So what I'm going to do is go back over to our database, wherever that is. I want to go to the security group now that we have a dedicated one. This will make things a lot easier. I'm going to go and go to inbound rules. We're going to go ahead and edit that. I'm going to add a new rule. I'm going to call it gitpod. It has to be named gitpod for this to work. I'm going to set my own IP. This is not going to give gitpod access. I'm just setting anything here for the time being. And we're going to go Postgres. And we need this value to change to be the one that we actually want it to be. So I want to make sure... Oh, did we do that in the ALB by accident? Sorry. Is that oh, no, that's the right one. It's just that this name is messed up. We did fix that. We did fix that in our CloudFormation template. I'm just too lazy to tear it down just to make that superficial fix. But it can kind of mess you up there when you're looking at it. So I'm going to just refresh this here, and we can see that there is this IP address. We want this to change to the actual gitpod 1. We do have a script for that. So bin, it was RDS, and then update SG rule. So hopefully that will take effect. It wasn't able to do that because it says it's malformed. Let's go take a look at how this script works. So in here, this relies on the dbsg rule ID, which no longer exists, and the dbsg ID. So these are two things that we need to go set. So what I'll do is go back over to our database, wherever that is defined, or sorry, our security group. And so this is the rule that we want to affect. So we'll go grab that one. I'm going to say export dbsg rule ID, and then paste that on in there like that, and then hit up, and we'll do gpenv. And I'll go back over to here. And we now want to grab the security group, which is this one. And this one is going to be export dbsgid equals double quotations, paste that in. We'll hit up gpenv. And so now if we try this, still says malformed. It's not malformed. When calling the modify security rule, CIDR block /32 is malformed. Okay, well, what is the gitpod ID? Can we echo that and see what it is? I know we had to update those anyway, but the question is, what is going on here? Is this not set? It's not set. Okay, so, I mean, this gets set when we first run our gitpod YAML. So let's go take a look here and see what it's complaining about. I mean, I don't think that's an issue. It's because it only runs in the context of whatever one it is. So it's not necessarily that it wasn't being set. It's just not being set for our current bash window down here for CDK. So I'll do that. And now we'll run this. And this should update it. We're going to make our way back over to here. We'll give this a refresh. And I think it changed, 34. I don't think it was that before. We'll go ahead and we'll see if we can establish our connection. Okay, database crawler does not exist. Oh, you know what? Because we have to type prod, sorry. And we got in, so we'll do DT. There are no tables, so this is perfect. I'll just be back here in a moment. I'm just going to grab something to eat, but the next thing we need to do is just seed our data. Load the schema into the production database, which we've done before, and then hopefully our internal error will go away in our running production application. See you back here in a bit. All right, I am back. And so, yeah, we don't have any data in there. Let's go take a look at our scripts from earlier. So we'll go into our bin, our DB, and in here we have, well, there's setup, but we don't want to run setup, and we can't run that against the database anyway, but we have the schema load, and I believe that we're allowed to run this against prod, yes. And so this would stage up our changes, right? One other thing here, though, is that we have to make sure that we could run migrations as well against prod. So I'm just going to go double check here and look at our migrations. There's no option for production, is there? Let me double check here. Yeah, so that's the one question that I have is this going to run against prod? Mod, migration, migrate. This is, let me think about that for a second. I'll be back in a moment, okay? So I was just thinking about this, and what this is going to do is it's using the libdb directory, and so I believe that it's always reliant on the connection URL setting, not the prod connection URL. So I think in here, we'd have to override it to run it when we run this command here. So we'll do schema load, because this is something that's important, because you know, if you are using this application and you want to run the migrations, it has to be somewhere. Normally where we would run migrations is we would have, I usually use code deploy. So code deploy, like in an EC2 environment, it would roll out the new container. And then afterwards, as a post hook or a post action, then it would perform the migration. And so that's important for the CI/CD pipeline to do, is if there are any changes to run them. Here we're just trying to run them locally. So We don't have prod on that for the migrate, but anyway, what we'll do is we'll do the schema load for now. I'll just type in prod. And so that's going to create the tables against prod. We'll go back over here, give this a refresh. And so now we don't have errors, but that migration is not necessarily part of our schema load because we did not load that back into our schema or update our schema. So we do have to still run that migration. So maybe what we can do is take a look at what it does change. So we'll go into our DB here and our migrations. And down below, this one is adding a column called bio and dropping a column called bio. So it's actually just adding the bio column. So I'm going to want to go back and do a DB connect. And I want to describe the table users. There we go. And so in here, there is no bio column. So that's what we want to add. So what I'll do is I'll try to do this by doing migrate. And we'll just override the connection URL. So we'll say connection URL equals prod connection URL. I'm going to hope that just takes effect. And it's not. So that's what I was hoping that we could do, is change the context of that. Well, you know what? I didn't spell it right, so that's probably why it didn't work. So try this again. Ah, there we go. So that should have ran against prod. And we'll go back and connect. I'm going to go look at the table. And so now the bio field is there. But this doesn't solve it in an automated fashion. We still have to manually do it. So something that I'm kind of wondering is, how do we do post hooks with the deploy feature? Because we could have used code deploy, but code deploy gives us a bunch of steps that we can do. So we'll say ECS deployment post hooks. And so I'm not sure. Yeah, and so it's going to code deploy because that's what code deploy allows you to do. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure how we would do that without using code deploy. Yeah, that's a interesting question. Okay. So we'll just remember that right now we have to do it manually, but maybe we have to swap out. I'm not saying we're going to do it, but maybe we have to swap out our deployment mechanism for code deploy, because how would we perform these post actions after deployment, right? Or maybe we don't have to do that. Maybe we can apply them separately. So things get a little bit more complicated when you're working with containerized applications. Plus, if you want to have a microservice architecture, like more than one container running. But anyway, we'll figure it out as we go here. But yeah, the database is set up for that one, so we are in good shape for that. There is no data right now. That's totally fine. I'm just trying to think here, because in our database, we need to have the Cognito stuff in there with the Cognito user ID, but we already have a Cognito account. So I guess we would just delete our account and sign up again. That's what I'm thinking. So what we'll do is make our way over to Cognito here. I'm going to go into the user pool. And, oh yeah, these are all fake users, right? So we generated out all these users. They don't actually exist. But what I'm looking for here is my own. And you know what? Did people try to sign up for Crutter on my website? I think that's what's going on here. I think people went and they confirmed their email addresses and they signed up on the main crutter.com. That's hilarious. But there's no data on there, so I guess I'll just have to delete everybody out there. That's kind of funny. Because I'm just going here, I'm thinking, like, I don't remember us doing that for production. So these are actual real boot campers. You know, sorry for exposing your emails here, but yeah, I'm not gonna clear those. I'm sorry. I'll be back here in a moment, okay? All right, so after a little bit of time here, I was able to clear out all the users, even myself. And so I'm going to go back to the main Crutter application. I guess the question is, can it communicate with the backend here? So we aren't seeing anything, but that doesn't necessarily mean we aren't getting any errors. I'm going to go over to the network tab. We're going to give this a refresh. And the pre-flight is passing, so that is good. It's just that there's nothing to show there. So we should really have something here when there is nothing, but we're not going to worry about that right now. I'm going to go up and sign in. We'll say andrew@exampro.co. Actually, we're signing up. We're not signing in. So say Andrew Brown, andrew@exampro.co. I'm going to put in my username. I'm going to put in a password here that I'm not going to tell you what it is, just so that people aren't logging in and impersonating me. Not that we're looking for anything too secure. And now I'm getting an access denied. So this is interesting. And this is after we've had a redirect. This error is coming from S3. It probably has to do with our static website hosting. It could be because we're not forwarding these query parameters. So if I go here, that doesn't work. If I go here, what do I get? That's fine. If I go to sign in, okay, sign up, notice that is not working. But if we're here and we click through here, so that's on a redirect. So clearly, we need to figure out how to allow it to work as an SPA, single page application, always route to the main one. And so that's what I'm going to go figure out. So give me just a moment, okay? So there's not very elegant solutions here, but the idea is what they say is make a custom error response page, because if there is a way to do SPAs better on CloudFront, I don't know if I remember if there is a way. But maybe adding that error page is going to resolve that issue. The idea is we're going to just return back the index HTML with the status code that we want. This one's doing it on a 400. This one's doing it on a 403. What we hit here was access denied. So access denied is what? Actually, what we could do is probably just go open this up in Inspector and see what it returns. So we'll go to our network tab. We'll give this a refresh, and we'll see what code we get back. We'll say all. And so we're getting a 403 here. So maybe that's what we'll do is we will set up a that to reroute there. Now we can, of course, go modify our CloudFront distribution in the console. I'm going to do it via CloudFormation just because it takes frickin' forever for the stuff to work, and I don't want to set it and then have to update it again. So over here we have one for our CloudFront. It's the front end. And we're going to go into our template YAML, and we're going to go scroll on down. And so in here, we want to set that stuff up. So this is going to be in our distribution. And I think before, when we had an example, there was already one for error messages. But I think we actually ended up deleting it out because I was like, we don't need that custom stuff in there. But what I'm looking for is wherever that is. So we'll click into this configuration here. And there's going to be something for custom error responses. So I'm going to assume it's this one. So we'll go ahead and grab that. We'll go back over here and down below, we'll add this in. And we will click into this. It says a list of error responses. So that means that it wants it to be an array. So we'll just give this a hyphen here. We'll go back over to here. And so we have some options. Do we get examples? No, we never do get examples, do we? I'm going to go ahead and grab all this stuff, this nice stuff here, and then we'll have to decide what it is that we want to keep. So error caching min TTL, I'm going to keep that out. Error code, that's an integer, so that's going to be 403. We want to return back a 200, and the response page is going to be index.html. Probably needs a / at the front, because when we looked at those screenshots, they were putting that in there as well. Notice here, /. So I'm thinking that this is what we need to do. I'm going to go ahead and deploy our changes. So we'll say a bin CloudFormation. Front end, yep. And we'll go ahead and see if we can have that take effect. Now, distributions usually take forever to update. This is just error codes. Maybe this will be super fast. I don't know. It depends on what it's going to affect. So I'm going to go over to CloudFormation. Thought I had it open somewhere at the top. If I do, I certainly cannot find it. And we'll go over here, and we'll go look for our front-end stack. We'll give this a moment here to think. We'll go over to our front-end stack here. We'll go over to change sets. I'll go ahead and execute that change set. And that will roll out those changes here. I'm going to give this a refresh, and we'll wait a while. It might take a bit of time, okay? All right, so after a little time here, now it says update complete. So that error page should be in place. Now, this is a CloudFront distribution or a CDN, so sometimes these things don't take effect immediately. And we'll refresh here, but it did exactly what we wanted to do, so that solves that problem there. We did have to confirm our email, so I'm going to go ahead and type that back in here. We'll go back into the confirm page. Okay, and I know a bootcamper solved this issue for us here to fix that. It's been a while, so maybe I can go find the solution. We'll solve it eventually here, but it's something that I want to solve here at some point. But I'm just going to go off screen here and go get the code for my email. So give me a moment here. And so we have our confirmation code. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste that into place. We'll confirm that email. Post confirmation failed with error variable con referenced before assignment. That's kind of interesting because we never had problems with this before, but we have changed our database, so maybe there's something else that is taking effect here. We're going to make our way over to Lambda, and we'll take a look at that code. I think that we can see it inline because it's that small. I might be wrong. We have obviously more than one because Baco made one and I made one as well. I should really get rid of the old one so that we're not so confused on what is going on here. Of course, you only have one, so this isn't a problem for you. But I'll delete out my older one so that I can see what I'm doing. And I'll go ahead and delete this one next. And we'll close that. We'll go into our post confirmation 2. And I hope that we can see the code inline. Excellent, we can. So here it was saying that this con was being used before it was ready. We do have this connection URL here. But if it's wrong, we're going to run into problems. Now, this connection URL is probably being set in the nvars here, which, by the way, is probably not the best way to do it. What we should be doing is putting this in parameter store secrets. It already is, and then pulling that down and giving it permission to do so. That's actually the proper way that this should work. But for the time being, I'm going to go ahead and save this. We're going to make our way back over to here, and we'll try this again. And so the code's no longer valid because we already used it up, but the post confirmation failed. So it already went ahead and attempted to perform that. So we're now kind of in a weird state. So I'm going to have to go make my way back over to Cognito. And we're going to go into that pool. And we'll go ahead and delete the user. We'll say disable and delete. And what we'll do is we'll go back here and we'll sign up again. Sorry, sign up. And I'll just put a password in here. Okay, and again, it doesn't populate there, and we do have a fix somewhere in the forms. And I'm going to make my way back over to my email, grab the new one, and we'll confirm it. We're not getting an error yet. Oh, there we go. Task timed out after 3 seconds, so that's an issue. I like how descriptive it is. That's an issue with our Lambda, so let's go back over to our post confirmation here. Timed out after 3 seconds. Maybe it needs to be longer. Now, this has a connection URL, but also has to have permission to access it. So if we go over to this is probably deployed in a VPC, and this one goes into the default VPC. So this is a problem where we're just using the default VPC, and we really need to have this one attached to not only the correct VPC, but also, security group, but also the correct VPC. So can we just switch that out here? Because that would be one thing we'll need to do. And I don't want to choose all the subnets. We want the public ones. We really should get rid of those private ones if we're not going to use them. I'm going to checkbox those off. And then in here, I'm going to make a new security group. So we'll go here and type in security group. ECS. Or EC2, sorry. And we will go ahead down to our security groups here. I'm going to go ahead and create a new security group. I'm going to call this one Cognito Lambda SG for the Lambda that needs to connect to Postgres. And we want to make sure that we are choosing the correct one here. The inbound rules. Do we need inbound rules? What was the other one doing? I mean, I'm just trying to think here. This doesn't need inbound, but it does need access to outbound. So yeah, I don't think there's any inbound rules that need to be specified here. But I'm going to go ahead and create this group. And we're going to make our way back over to security groups. And what I want to do is go into the database one, which is here, because it has a terrible name. And I'm going to go ahead and edit this and add a new rule. So we'll go here, and this will be, again, Postgres. And we will allow this from our security group here that is called Lambda. Okay, and this will be Cognito Post conf. And we'll save that rule. And so hopefully that will fix that issue. We'll go back over to Cognito, give this a refresh. We'll go ahead and delete this user again. And I'm going to go back to the application, and I'm going to attempt to sign up again. And we'll sign up. And I will go and get my confirmation from my email again. And hopefully this doesn't time out this time. Timed out. Probably for a different reason. Well, hold on. Did we even update this with the new security group? Oh, I didn't. Okay, so that was a waste of time, but we'll go back up here, and I'll say save. And that should take effect there. It's nice that we can just switch VPCs really easy with our Lambdas. I'm going to go back over to Cognito, wherever that is. And we'll clear this out again. Delete. And I'm going to assume that maybe the Lambda has now been updated, so hopefully it has been. Try this one more time. Fingers crossed that it works this time. And I have a new confirmation code. Timed out. Okay, let's go take a look at that Lambda. So it's in the correct VPC. We have one for private. That's not right. I'll change this to public. So it seems like we didn't even let it finish updating. So I guess we'll have to wait and then update it again. How do we know that this is in progress? I don't even know how we would know. It says up here. So we'll have to wait, and then we'll have to update it again. So that's probably the reason we're just kind of impatient. So I'll see you back here in a bit, okay? Okay, even though that's been updated, I'm going to go back there and, again, make sure that I'm selecting the right ones, because one of that is a private one, and that could easily mess up our issue here. So we have priv2, we'll take that off, and I want pub1. So we just got to be very careful what we select here. I'll go ahead and hit save. And so now I'm waiting for this to finish, and then what we can do is test this again. While we're waiting, if we've already created that user, I could go ahead and disable and delete. I'm going to wait for this Lambda to finish updating. Going to refresh this, just make sure that it actually did, and I'm not getting mixed up here. So now it's been updated with the correct stuff. So hopefully, hopefully this is the time that it's going to work. So we'll go sign up. We'll try this again. And we'll sign up, and I will put this in here again. I really hope we don't get a timeout. Oh, by the way, before we do that, I'm just going to double check that Lambda. I want to make sure that the nvar is set to the new one. Yeah, it is. So that shouldn't be a problem. We'll go back over wherever that is here. to here, and we'll hit confirm email. And we got in. Okay, great. So that resolves that issue, so we can sign up. It doesn't show us signed in, which is just kind of a defect of our workflow here. But I'm going to go ahead and type this in here, and I'm going to put in my password. Okay, we'll go ahead and sign in. And so now we're in. Let's write a CRUD. How are you doing today? And we'll go ahead and hit CRUD. And nothing happened. So we probably hit an error. So we'll go here and see what the problem is. Network. Hit that again. And we get a 500 error. The pre-flight didn't fail, but we have a 500 error for some reason. This is where we can go check out Rollbar. So I'm going to go ahead and log into Rollbar. Put that in there, and then I just need my other one. And we'll log in. And so here it says public activities does not exist. That was 2 hours ago. That's not very recent. So I don't really trust these errors here. I'm going to go ahead and mark these as resolved. We'll merge that. But I would really like to see, I don't know why that's not live, but I want to go ahead and try this again. So we'll go here and we'll just try this again, hit CRUD. And so it should be popping up here. We should be seeing our roll bars. So that's interesting. We're not seeing anything here. We'll make our way over to ECS. Maybe that will be a better indicator for us. And I'm going to go into here. We're going to go into backend Flask. We'll go to our logs. There is no log information. That's kind of interesting. We should see something, not nothing. Maybe the reason we're not seeing logs could be because of our logs are not configured correctly, but I think we did see logs at one point, right? This is odd. We're not seeing any logs. Let's go into our configuration and tasks. Let's click into the task. Let's go to the logs here. No logs. And down here it says no log configuration with the AWS logs log driver. So that one doesn't have logs configured as well. Did we miss something in our CloudFormation template here? Because I thought we configured logs. So what I'm going to do is go over to our service, and we'll go into our template here. We have log we have log configuration. It's right here. It shows that it has it. We don't have it set on the X-ray container, which I'm not so worried about, but I'm kind of wondering why we're not seeing anything in here. So that's kind of interesting. So we'll go back over to our task here. Because we should see like the health. Oh, there it is. Okay, so maybe we're just impatient and it just wasn't showing up yet. Where'd it go? It was just here. This is messing with us. What is going on? We just saw the logs. They were definitely there. Okay, if we can't see them here, let's go just over to CloudWatch logs and find them there. And we'll go to our log groups. Yeah, of course my billing's over. And in here we have Crudder. It should be backend Flask. It's probably down here is the log group. 516, so this is the most recent. We'll go into here. And we can see our health checks are passing. We do see some errors, so that's good. We have a not null violation object has no attribute PG error. So not null attribute, so that is a validation error. Why rollbar is not showing us the error is a surprise to me. I think that's kind of sad because we'll have to spend more time to fix that if we want to use that. Flask, production. Yeah, we're not seeing any errors there. But we can definitely see maybe it's not working when we updated our app.py, because here we're doing this now instead. And this is what is being used to configure rollbar. So it could be that when we change this, this is no longer working. What we should do is take a look at what rollbar is suggesting, because rollbar probably has a new way of configuring that, because they would have to deal with the new Flask changes as well. So if we go over to, where would be settings? Don't know. So we'll say rollbar Flask. And maybe we can find the documentation for it there. So blinker, that's fine. I'll open up this one and that one. We'll go into this. Before first request. But how old is this? Is this even updated? This is 2 years old. Then we have this one here. So this one's hello.py. Before first request. So they haven't updated their code examples, and there's obviously a new Flask version, and so I'm not sure what's going on there. But clearly the replacement that we were suggested isn't actually working. Otherwise, that would have been captured in rollbar, and we wouldn't have to go to CloudWatch logs. But hey, we can still see what the issue is, so we can troubleshoot it there. But anyway, not null violation, object has no attribute PG error. And so what is it talking about when it says that? I'm not sure exactly what attribute it is. It's not like it's logging out the all the stuff. Oh, object has no attribute PG error. Is it saying it has no attribute called PG error? Or, but anyway, I know there's a not null violation. So let's go take a look at our schema, because our schema, we probably changed it so that we have to pass something along and something's not being added there. So we'll go into here and we will check out the activities here. And we have a not null on the user ID, a not null on the message, and a not null on the created at timestamp. So one of those is clearly null. And what value is null, I do not know. We could technically test this locally to debug that. And if we have it already running, we do. Maybe that's what we should do and find out that way. So what I'm going to do is, well, I guess we'd find out if we seeded the data. So we'll do bin db setup. So we don't have any errors there, so that's good. And so let's go and check out this locally. So I'm going to go find it over here. Localhost 3000. We'll sign in. And we should now be able to do this because it imported the value there. So this should work. Good. I'm going to go ahead and write a new CRUD. We'll write that. And it worked. There was no problem. Okay, so what's the problem here? This is this is working as expected. All right, so we'll make our way back over to CloudWatch logs. I was expecting it to not work, right? So that we could narrow that down, but there is a not null violation that is, so something is not correct. Let's go over and do a DB connect. Okay, and let's say select all from users. I'm gonna do X on. Oh, you know what? We have to quit here because I want to do prod here. And here it's saying could not translate host name. Okay, well this worked before, no problem. So why all of a sudden is it upset? Oh, that says DB instance still. Oh, it's because we went to a different tab. It's probably over here that we did it. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to do X on here. We'll select all from users. Okay, so nothing there. Wait, why is there nothing there? So the post confirmation is what is supposed to be doing the insert. So that means that is still a problem. It didn't actually work, but we thought that it did. So what we'll do is we'll go back to Lambda and we'll go to monitor and we'll go take a look at the logs because probably something failed there. You know, we should really make our stuff a bit more robust. And in the case that it does fail, it should not proceed forward. But we'll go take a look here. And so here we have sub, email verification, status, Cognito, Andrew Brown, Andrew Brown, Andrew Brown, email. So it's going to go ahead and insert that data. Function takes at most 2 arguments. So it's complaining about what we're passing in here. And it's saying it's only taking 2 arguments. So it's saying there's something actually wrong with our query, which is surprising because it was working fine before, no problem. But maybe it's the values that it's passing in. 5 are given. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know what's going on there. So we'll go over to our code and we'll take a look. 1, 2, 3, 4. And carefully reading this param. So we do the wildcard here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It is expanding them. Do we need to expand it though? I guess that's the question. Because we can have name params. Actually, that's what we have been doing in the past. We have been doing name params. I kind of prefer to do that because we'll run into less problems with that. So let's switch that over to be name params, and then we can just rule out that issue. So it's been a while since we wrote some SQL. So let's go up and check as a reference so I can just kind of spark my brain there. So we'll go into the SQL directory here. And we'll expand this open here. So it is parentheses. That's what I was looking for. So we'll go back over to Lambda. And I'm going to just take this here. And we're going to do parentheses. And then we'll say whatever it is, display name. This is going to be parentheses email. This is going to be parentheses handle. This is going to be parentheses Cognito user ID. Okay. So that is a little bit better. Then down below here, then we're going to have to map those. So we'll just do this instead. We don't have to do that anymore. And now we can do display name. At least that's what I think. It's been, it's been a while, so I could be getting it wrong. We'll see here. Handle. User Cognito ID. Something looks off here. Probably we have to do these in single quotations. I'm trying to do Ruby here. That's my problem. Or JavaScript, I suppose. But yeah, I think that is what we're supposed to do here. And I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And we're going to hit deploy because this is code that we want to hold on to. So we'll go into our Lambdas, into our post confirmation here. And we'll just update this accordingly. Anyway, I think the thing that was messing it up was that wildcard on the params, but you know, it might still fail. So we'll make our way back over to here. I'm going to sign out because I'm technically not logged in. It makes no sense. And we'll go back over to Cognito. And we will delete this one. And we'll go and see if that Lambda is done deploying. It looks like it is done. And we'll attempt this again. So we'll say sign up. Andrew Brown, Andrew at exampro.co. Andrew Brown. And I'll put a password in here. We will sign up. I will place in my email here. And we will go to show. And before we do this, I'm going to go over to this Lambda. I'm just checking here. Yeah, before we do that, I just want to go over to monitor and just clear out the log so we can see what we're doing. Okay, and so now we'll go back over to wherever our tab was for this. We'll hit confirm. No error. That doesn't mean it works, as we just learned. And we're going to go back to the logs. So this is, close that one out. And so it should be here that we see a log. We'll go here and take a look and see if we get a different error, because we did change stuff here. Cognito user ID. I'm not sure why this is being printed here. It's kind of interesting. But what we'll do is we'll go back over to our application over here, and we will select all from users, and it still doesn't show a user. So to me, that means that it still isn't working. Maybe our logging could be a little bit better for this. And we'll put here, we'll just say this will be the error. And then here we can say, yeah, I'm not sure. Oh, you know what? This is spelt wrong. So it was throwing an error. We just didn't notice that it was doing that. And so we will save that. We're going to go back over to Cognito. Where are you, Cognito? We'll go ahead and delete this user again. And we'll go back over to Crowder and we will sign up again. Okay, and then we will go ahead and grab our new confirmation code. And again, to make things easier, I'm going to go to CloudWatch logs, go back a step, and we're just going to delete out this log here so our lives are a little bit easier. And we can go back over to here and hit confirm email. We'll go back over to CloudWatch logs, refresh this. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time for that to show up. It's not showing, oh, well, did we even update the code? No, we did not, because I did it here, but I did not actually update the code in line. Probably have to do that if we want this to work. We'll go ahead and deploy this. And I'm just going to go back here and delete this. And I'm going to go back over to here and delete this. And I'm going to go back over to here. And we're going to go and sign up again. And we'll sign up. And then I'll place this in here. And I'll get my new confirmation code. And before we do that, we're going to make sure this new Lambda is deployed. It is. I'm going to hit confirm email. I'm going to go back to CloudWatch logs, which is here. And I'm going to, this is ECS, I think. We'll go, yeah, over here. And we'll refresh. We will check the logs. We still have an error for user Cognito ID. So there's something that is still wrong. So we'll go back to our app. And, oh, there's a double parentheses. No, that's right. That's supposed to be there. But it is complaining about this. Now, I'd rather bring these onto separate lines, to be honest, now that we're doing it this way. So just bring this down here. And also, this is just so I can spot any other problems when you do formatting. It just makes things a little bit easier. But it is erroring about this Cognito user ID. And actually, we could just say Cognito. It's interesting. This one's called Cognito user ID. This one's user Cognito ID. What did we call it up here? User Cognito ID. We should just be kind of consistent and name this the same throughout. That way we can have less problems going on. Okay. But why it errored out, I don't know. We'll go back over here. Error user Cognito ID. Quotations. Don't know. And that's the sub here. Yeah, not sure. So anyway, we've reworked our code a bit. And we'll go here and we'll copy this. Now, if we were using SAM, we could probably run this locally. There is other Lambdas that we can, like tools that we can use to test this, but we'd have to have the payload for us in order for us to test this code. So I'm not sure if we really want to do this now, but you know, that's something that might have been smart, is that we made these Lambdas. We should have made sure that we had a really good test workflow, but we just never made time to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one more time. And if this becomes too repetitive, we'll have to do some smarter debugging here. So I've brought this onto new lines here. Also, one other thing I want to do is just show where the error ends. So print error end. Now, it was interesting that it was showing single quotations here, almost as if something was happening here that was the problem. But hopefully this will give us a better indicator of what's happening. Deploy this again. Delete this again. Going over here, deleting out the user, disable, delete. And we'll go back over here. We will go and sign in, sign up. And we'll sign up again, put in our email. We'll go grab this confirmation code. Well, before I clicked too fast. Well, I'm sure it already was done deploying, so that's okay. We'll go here, and hopefully we have better information this time. So it's not showing user cognito ID anymore, so that's great. I'm hoping that's an indicator that it actually did commit to the repo. Excellent. Okay, let's go over to here. We'll sign in now. We'll sign in. And we're here. We'll write our new CRUD. Hey, how are you all doing? We'll hit CRUD. And there we go. So our database for that part is hooked up. We still haven't done DynamoDB. But once we have, I guess we need a second user to test DynamoDB. But if DynamoDB is working after that, then we can start doing some application implementation. So, you know, like there's that there's the repost, there's the comment. Anything we can do to make sure the application is working in a better state, iron any kind of stuff out there. But anyway, I'll see you in the next one because we've accomplished what we wanted to do in this video. So see you in the next one, okay? Ciao.